And second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. So now we have the next item is the public portion. Do I have a motion to open the public portion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So if anybody has any comments with respect to any of the items that are, listed in Roman numeral 6 and 7, please come on up to the podium, identify yourself, and state your question or issue.
Come on.
Before we proceed, what are some, the sewer is supposed to start at 7?
Can you come up to the microphone,
No.
please?
No, 7 o'clock.
I think later we received at 7:30. Yeah, this is Salesh Shah, 90 Shamrock Hill Drive, and I have the paper, the bill, which is.
It's 7 o'clock meeting. We already closed the public hearing. So that,
Because it says 7:30,
well,
so something is wrong.
yeah, it does state that, but it's already
Maybe
been
you have
closed.
to- No, you have to reopen it,
No, we're closed.
so then you.
We had discussed, we're going to have ongoing discussions for the rates.
For public, we advertise 7:30, and we want to close it before that.
Mr. Clerk, we had officially announced it. I don't know what the misstatement is, but we have officially,
This is public letter sending to every individual one, saying 7:30.
My legal notice goes to the paper, I don't send that out.
and it's posted as 7 o'clock. Jim, what's your legal opinion?
Yeah.
We public,
I mean,
Respond
you
to
can
this
certainly, I mean, if the board chooses, they can certainly speak as part of the public portion.
As part of the public portion, that's fine.
Oh, that's
I'll let
fine.
you speak.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Please identify your name and your
yes,
address.
this is Salesh Shah again, 90 Shamrock Hills Drive. I received the water bill last time, for last quarter, which is like $440, which is, makes sense, but I may have used more in summertime. Question I'm having is hard time is with sewer bill. Those water what we use in summertime does not go to sewer at all. What it goes to sewer is what we use during winter time. Most of the water goes in that. So if I look at based on what we advertise to public, says our sewer bill is 1.67x of water bill, which is reasonable. I look at the New York State average bill, which is 1.59. This is 1.7, so not bad. But if I really look at more detail, that based on my bill in the winter, what I really use water for sewer treatment, which is we are sending to public sewer system. If I look at that way, it is like 10x. I had asked to reduce it. I was asked, okay, we'll reduce by $200 or something. I don't think still is appropriate. It's still very high. Somehow we are not running our sewer treatment plant very effectively, cost effectively. That's my
Okay,
complaint.
thank you for your comments. As we mentioned in the public portion, we will be discussing more of the rates later on in the year, and we're not making any final decisions on the rates, tonight.
Not
So-
tonight, that's
So
correct.
by the next week, I have to pay my bill,
Yes,
and I have to pay
and
full.
with the credit that you received, yes.
So I had to, so there is no reduction because of.
Well, we can discuss that later on, but right at this point in time, pay the bill. Otherwise, we have no recourse
I
but
know,
to
right.
send it to the taxing authorities, and then they
Right,
put
I
a
know.
lien on
Right,
you.
that's, we have bigger
Right.
stick on your
Right.
hand, so, yeah.
Yeah, and, unfortunately, Mr. Tremper left, he could explain it
next-
some more, but probably at the end of the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
at the end of, this quarter that goes through the end of the year,
Right.
then we'll be able to get a full picture for the year and then consider it, as you may have heard or seen, Shailesh, in the
Yeah.
context of O&M charges, that we have, and I, did receive your letter, tried to come
Yeah,
out
right,
and
right.
talk
I
with
did
you.
forward later.
We have a much smaller sewer district,
Understood.
than Westchester, right?
Understood, right.
And much greater, cost structure because we don't, well, with the exception of 3 small package plants, we don't run the sewer, processing facilities. We're not even
No,
a
understood.
voting
I
member.
understand all the reasons.
So we have a
But
number of
for-
issues, but we have agreed amongst ourselves
Yeah.
that we will discuss this further as we look at
Right.
next year's rates.
So what
Okay.
we agreed to before you came in is we agreed to the bottom line budget because we have to come up with a budget. We said we'd look at the rates later on and we'll take a look at them before they become final. Again, waiting for fourth quarter actuals to come in, and then we'll make those changes.
I'm
So
sure
what-
fourth quarter will be less, but I think we are looking from overall expense, how is per gallon, how much costing to the public to process 1 gallon of our sewer versus everybody else across New
Yeah.
York State.
I-
right?
I-
Okay.
You
And
know, the
then-
difficulty, that we have is that sewer and water operate separately. They're two separate districts,
I
right?
mean, that's fine.
And
That's
so
fine.
therefore, how to get the appropriate sewer costs reimbursed to cover us so it doesn't go into, well, bond or debt is our challenge because we have a smaller sewer district, than the water district residents, right?
Right.
And you're,
And we are just starting, so I understand we don't have enough customer
Right.
where everybody has, I see the all side.
Right.
But I'm still looking from is how cost effective we are running. And I don't know, what we are talking about right now is we will review the bill and we split the bill. What I'm asking is one step beyond that, is how we are going to optimize it, the cost. That's why-
I will say that
We're aware of that.
Councilman
We're working on
Casella,
that.
myself, Mike Tremper,
Yeah.
Frederick, and Leanne have had many meetings trying to figure out, is there a way to do it? So we're not ignoring it, and it's
So I'm
a
looking
real
for more
challenge. Yeah.
cost reduction
Of
rather
course.
than
No, understood.
distribution.
Oh, I think
Distribution,
all of
we have
us
to-
are.
We have to cover the money. I understand 100%. But I'm talking about one step beyond it
Right.
to
The
reduce
future.
the cost.
Right,
Right.
we're thinking
Yeah,
about
so,
the
okay,
future
that's all.
also.
And second one is what happened now, which I'm surprised nobody else came in for water. I'm hearing a lot of noise behind the scene, but no member from public came in. Okay, me and my friend only came
Yeah.
in. So
Okay.
that's
That's-
interesting.
But
right?
But thank
you.
you for coming
Thank
in.
you.
Yeah,
coming
and the
in.
second
And-
one is, let's make sure we synchronize
Yeah.
what we advertise.
Yeah.
Because water is us, and we finished this one before 7:30, so let's make sure.
Yeah, I
next
don't
time-
know how that happened,
Yeah,
but we'll
right,
make
right.
sure that doesn't
Yeah, right.
happen again.
Right.
That's all, probably an old statement that was being used, but thank you, and thank you for your
Thanks.
service to the community as well.
Okay,
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Paresh Shah, live at 28 Carmel Heights in Wapinges. And I have a similar issue with Sailesh. My water bill also is $1,637. And I have a swimming pool and a sprinkler system. And it's a little bigger property, Carmel Heights. And not every drop, I take as a water goes in a sewer. And I complain, I fill out the form, and the credit I got is only like $500 for the sewer, which is $1,049. My average bill, if you look at other quarters, is running between $200 to $300. And I have only two people, my wife and myself, staying in the house. Now just looking a little more reduction of credit possible.
Sure. Well, I appreciate it, and I know that our people have talked with you. There was the issue of pool repair, as I
Yeah,
recall.
pool repair is done, yes.
And quite honestly, the numbers that we saw, you were, over 1 million gallons, 1,189,000 gallons.
No, I have a
usage gallons.
15,900 number.
What's, anyway, huh? Cubic feet, cubic feet. The highest one in there, so that's why we try, where there are pool issues or leaky faucets, right? We'll
No, faucets
address
are
it. No, I know in your case it's not. It was a pool repair, so, we will, look at it. But as I think we said earlier, we're going to look at the overall usage as far as the cubic feet and, the gallons.
But we do have a process in place that Leanne put together along with Frederick to give refunds because we know that we can't measure all the water going into the sewer. We just don't have a mechanism to do that today, and that's the issue. So we try to look back at the last year, see what your consumption is, see if we can do something for you, and that's why you got the credit you got now. Maybe you don't think it's enough, but certainly we got to take a look at it and see if there's other things we can look at. As the supervisor said, we got to take a look at rates.
So, when we put into the rates a couple years ago, so for conservation pricing for water, so we also did create this process to come in and talk with us, get credits or what have you. So, that still is something that is a work in process, so we appreciate your comments, and we'll,
Because
keep you advised.
I live 20 years in the same house, and if you look at the
Understood.
bill 2020 and 2019, I was using about this 15,000 number, 17,000, My bill is about like $400, $500 the top, I never paid this
Sure.
1,400 or 1,800, big numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, but please
Thank you,
consider,
Fred. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on any other item? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion.
Take a motion. I'll second it.
A motion and second.
Aye.
Oh, okay, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So now we'll move into discussions on the budget. This is our second part of a two-part, process to hear from the various responsible departments. So Frederick, you want to come up and talk about accounting, please? And what we've, done to try to streamline, some of the process is that I asked Mr. Casella to go and talk with some of the, with all the departments to figure out where we might be able to cut some more, since we're facing a difficult year and a half coming up. So that is going to be comprehended in our discussion, tonight. Go ahead, Frederick.
Thank you. So I believe you have this detailed worksheet. My budget is on page 5 of the A fund.
The line 1315.
Page 5 of 17.
Sorry, what line?
So the budget is on page 5 of 17.
What's your line 9?
Budget line item.
Oh,
13,
line
15.
1315.
Thank you.
Dot 100 is the first one. And these are the personnel. So we have dot 100, I did put in 4.5%, as was done for all the other personnel items. 101 also 4.5%. I have 103, which is the escrow account clerk, which I have 6,000. I've estimated 141 hours for the year 2023 at the rate of 28.29. Then we have the last item of the personnel is the 199, which is pretty standard with the previous years. The new item that I have for 23 is 1315.200, .201, which is the payroll software. We have had a number of complaints with our current payroll provider, and it is my wish that in 23 we get a new provider. There have been complaints to do with staff not being able to access their paychecks because they are not online. When you call for support, you get some people who do not know what they are talking about.
Is this Munistat? What is this software you want?
Well, I've
Well, we're
not picked
looking
on,
at,
the one that
no
we're using.
decision, I think, go back to the board,
don't
but
wanna
we're
s-
talking about ADP and some other.
Yeah, I don't want to
provider.
say their name,
Right.
but we are thinking of other companies. So that's why I have that number there. I still don't know whether it will be about that or a little more or a little less, but if it's more, I'll definitely come before you to ask for a little more money. If it is less, then we'll save some money on that line.
So
Then-
there's a cost savings if you get the software, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that I don't know what the new, if the town board approves this budget, what the new software, new payroll provider would charge. So we are in the process of looking at the payroll companies that we hear are good. We are hoping to have some of them come and then actually show us what they are able to do. And then we explain to them our unique situation, because we are really pretty unique. There are some people who, punch in, some people don't. Some people have, different rate structures. Some people have longevity in their pay rate, some don't.
Two different union
Yeah,
structures.
and then our budget lines might change from week or from by week to the next by week, depending on where those staff are working, like the community day. We had to change it for the staff that worked in community day from their regular payroll lines to Jessica's community day line. So,
So I think-
there are a lot of complexities.
Yeah, I think the core thing, just to get through it, Al, is that it's taking a lot more of Frederick's time and our time overall to address some of these issues. So there's a lot of manual time, a lot of also, issues raising from our various employees that
Right.
aren't getting the proper documentation or the proper recordation because, as Frederick said, the current provider doesn't seem to be able to handle, what is not a simple cookie cutter, arrangement, as we're finding out now.
Right. So that's why that is there. And then if we move on to the contractual, which is the last section, if you compare what was adopted 2020 and what we're asking is pretty standard. But let me talk about this most significant one, line 405. So that is the line that we are paying the time in a box, or the scanning device. We have 3 scanning devices. When you come into work, you put your fingerprints, and then it recognizes you. So we have 3 of them. So each cost us $420. So the 3 of them are more than about $1,200 per month. That comes to about $15,000. And then the rest of the money really basically is for the bi-weekly processing of the payroll, which they charge per employee. Typically, we pay between $200 to $300, depending on when we have more employees than other weeks. Like if we have the summer counselors, or we are paying the planning board or zoning board members, then we tend to have more. But if they are not there, then so that's why that amount is there. And then the next one is the.
Just one question on that. Do you recall what it cost us to get set up with Paychex?
I don't have the exact number,
Off the top of
but
your
I
head,
think
you
it
know?
was between 30 and 40,000. And we didn't budget for it. We had to come before you to request for funds from fund balance. But
Were we happy?
Okay.
so that basically concludes the accounting or controller of lines. Then we have the 1320.400, which is independent audit. And that amount is there because we had asked for the current auditors to come before us and give us a proposal, which they did. So that is the amount that we contracted them, or they agreed to charge for 3 years. And then the last is the 401, which is the actual fee, 2,800. That is the line that, according to Government Accounting Standards Board 75, we are supposed to do a valuation of post-employment benefits other than pension. So that is a company that helps us do that online. So we just key in like the premiums, and then it works out a valuation of the OPEB. All right. So that's basically it. Pretty straightforward.
So just, and maybe you answered this, I apologize, but the Edmunds annual support jumps from $7,750 to $16,000. What's
Yeah.
driving it?
Right. So That's because I was looking at what we spent in 2020, and you see the amount was over 15,000. That's why I adjusted the budget to mirror that amount. And then this software is not only for for the finance department, it's also for water and sewer, because we have the billing software, which is provided by the same company. So that's why that amount is there. Basically, it's contractual amount.
So the 16,000 contractual?
Yes.
Because you only spent 5,600 so far, year-to-date,
Right.
September.
because
So
it's-
I just wondering how you go from 5,600 to 16,000. Budget was 7,750. We're asking for 16. I'm looking at the prior years, and they are around 15. So it seems like it's going up and down here. So just wondering if there's something new. We're purchasing new software. What are we doing here that it's going up?
So what had happened is we did a prepayment because the bill comes in late, like in November, and we did a prepayment last year for the prepaid expenses, and that is why we reversed that prepayment in 2022. So when the next bill comes, we are supposed to then enter the full amount of that of that next bill. So the amount is contractual, but it's just a matter of apportioning expenses to what period.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
While we have you up there, I'd like you to turn to the employee benefits.
Yes,
Discuss,
yes,
you know,
yes.
line 9010 and those lines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, today we met with our insurance agent, Sherman and Sterling representative. Why don't you summarize discussion, because it will have an impact on the.
Yeah, so we met with our insurance agent, and then he told us that basically most of the premiums are going to go up because should there be a risk that attaches, it's going to be more costly to replace property or whatever they're covering. So we should expect a minimum of 5% of what they're billing now. In addition, he said that for the cyber liability, the current company that is offering it to us has said that they are going to charge a minimum of 30,000 from the current 14,000. So that's 15,000 that we need to consider adding onto the insurance line. Although he said he's going to look for other companies to see if we could get a better competitive price for the cyber, but we told him that we are good with our cyber IT, but he said we have to do a questionnaire. They have to provide a questionnaire. We fill it, and then we return it. But the company that's currently providing the cyber is going to charge 30,000 for next year, 2023.
So the issues are, as you know, the state, the amount of cyber attacks and ransomware that municipalities are paying have been on the rise. You know, we have, I think, a very robust system, as Craig has advised the board before. So we're looking at and talking with Robert to try to minimize it, because we think that the increase in insurance, it's going to go up, but because of the nature of our system that we've had in place for several years. So that's the core issue. He's going to try to find a better, from a rate point of view, carrier, you know, but because of the ransomware threats that are increasing throughout the state, that's the challenge for that coverage. And others, you know, such as environmental protection and so forth, are all rising as well. So
Yeah, the environmental, the pollution one, I think we paid 3 years ago. I mean, it was to cover 3 years. We had to ask the town board for a transfer from fund balance. So the goodness with that is that we have been apportioning whatever we paid 3 years ago over the 3 years. So it's a little bit of whatever we paid for each of the next 3 years beginning 3 years ago.
but
So-
on environmental, we still have another year or so to
Yes,
go
yes.
with that, so we don't have to worry about the insurance premium increasing this year.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is we're expecting some additional increases that we hope, he said that he'll let us know in the next few days to give us a better ballpark figure of what, we might be looking at
Right.
on the insurance, the whole area of insurance. That includes also, liability insurance and, other types of costs. Right, Frederick?
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the average increase you see percent-wise across the board? 10%?
For the overall, he said 5%.
Only 5%?
Yeah.
Seems low.
What had you built into this as far as percentage increase?
About 4%.
4%?
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully not a significant increase.
Yeah.
Sherman Sterling
So-
has been very good in keeping it down, so I'll hope it's not going to be much more.
Right.
Okay. Any other
Okay,
items?
so basically, those are my lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Frederick.
Yep.
Yep. Barbara?
So I think, Dick, before Barbara comes up, as she's coming up, as you had said earlier, there's some opportunities here when we look at the B fund, and Barbara isn't primarily in the B fund. So I think you're going to see some opportunities against some of the, I'll say, the B fund balance that we're looking to use. So again, after talking with Barbara, like, we talked about, I met with all the department heads with the exception of Steve, and I think you're going to see some savings here.
Come on. Okay, I have
Go
5
ahead.
budgets.
Go ahead, take your bow.
So I went over this with Richard, and then I had an opportunity to go over this with Al Casello. So I think there are some savings. So I'm going to start with the fire.
Which lines are you?
inspectors. That's 3410.
3410.
So I'm only going to go over the lines that have changed, either up or down. If you have other questions. No. So the first one is 3410.101-B, which is part-time inspector. So this is a line that we've had in our budget for quite a few years. We used to have a part-time, actually 2 different gentlemen. We do not use it, and the current fire inspector is fine on his own, so that's a line I feel we can remove at this time for $20,000.
Okay.
The next line in that budget that there's a change is 3410.200-B. I've put $500 in this for a tablet. We're hoping that our department next year will have tablets, which will save an immense amount of time. Instead of writing things up in the field, coming back and having to duplicate it into the computer, they can stay at a site, do their inspection, take photographs, and everything would be printed in the office. So that would be a considerable savings of time. And that's the only major change in the fire inspector's budget.
Everything else looks relatively flat year over year, so looks
Everything's
good.
flat from year to year. Okay?
Ready for the next
So
one?
I'm going to go to the building department, which is 3410, I'm sorry. 3620. And so on 3620.106B, there's a line for a code enforcement official for $50,000. And that line would be a 4th inspector, which we do not need at this time. And so I'm looking to remove that at a cost of $50,000 savings. Then if you go down to 3620.200B, I put $1,000 in for 2 $500 tablets for the 2 inspectors. Then on 3620.401B, it's for vehicle gas, and I've increased that to $1,800 from $1,200 due to the high cost of gas that we're experiencing.
Makes sense.
3620.409B is the municipal software, municipal maintenance of $4,800. I don't believe that was paid this year, and that may be in question because the company was sold.
Correct.
And 3620.410B is property maintenance. There's a number of 3,000 in there. We were very fortunate this year not to need it. with property maintenance. That's for property maintenance, should we have to bring certain properties to your attention, and upon your approval, we would have to have the lawns cut, and then that would be to fund reimbursing either our own buildings and ground, or if we had to go out to a landscaper. And that's the only major changes in building. Any questions? So then I'll go over to 8010, which is Zoning Board of Appeals. And the big one there is 8010.200B. This board had discussed software that would be comparable to what the town clerk uses, which is Minitrack. The company that does the Minitrack no longer services that. They're still using it, but they're sunsetting it. They have a new program called Peak. So the program for Peak would be for the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Board Secretary, so that she would also be able to take the minutes and attach the resolutions for a cost of $3,500 a year. So I split that between the two boards, so you'll see $1,750 in that line. Today, I was able to have a meeting that we were trying to schedule before tonight with Craig Roberts, who's our IT consultant. So the idea of having it streamed on our website, the way this is, there would be an additional cost for that, and I only found that out at 5 o'clock tonight. So if you wanted to have that streamed, that would be an additional $21.76 for each board. So it would be totaling for each board $39.26. So the number from the company with the live streaming is $78.52 a year, or $35 for just the software for her to do minutes and agendas. So that would be something for you to consider either way. I can also send the quote and the information on that to you by email. So you can-
Yes, please do. Thank you.
I will. We go down to 8015, which is the zoning department, and the big one there is 8015.100-B is for zoning administrator, and that's a line that is a duplication, and that's showing 65,331. That can be a give back. And then 8015.200B, which is the tablet for the zoning department, which is $500. And then the gas was increased at 8015.401B, again, because of the high gas prices, and it's a small increase. Any questions? Okay, and the last one for me is the planning department, which is 8020. And that, again, is 8020-200B, which would be the other half of that Peak software from Janius department. So I put the $1,750, which is half of the $3,500, and that's just for the software for minutes and agendas, but you'd have to add another $21.76 for a total of $39.26 if you wanted the live streaming that this board has. And 8020-400B is our planner. We have a $20,000 budget, and I was asked to find out what we've spent so far. So as of July, we have spent $92.87 in the bills for them, so that's what they've been paid.
And escrows are separate, correct?
Excuse me?
Escrows are in a separate account,
Escrows
correct?
are separate, that's paid out of totally different
Are we
funds.
anticipating any more bills, you know, for the
Well,
rest of the
that's
year?
through July, so there will be others.
That's only through July?
That's only
Yes.
through July.
So what was the line item you had we had discussed before and, you know, had put in here for a promotion?
That was 8015.100-B.
The 15-100, and you're saying that's coming out? Is there a
That's-
reason why?
That person is right now in 8015.101.
101? But, you know, you're taking out the line, so all this has is what, just for the 4.5% increase?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I would like to propose that we add an additional amount of 10,000 for, increase in salary because this person's exemplary and is saving us a huge amount of money.
I think that's a discussion we need to have in
Okay, well,
executive
but
session.
since we're discussing this, I want to put it officially on the record, and then we can discuss that
All gonna be
privately.
discussed. They will all be discussed.
What will all be discussed?
This plan is gonna be discussed in detail.
Yeah, that's what we're
That's
here
what-
to do,
That's right. I'm not gonna
discussing
do
it
it right
publicly.
now. I'm listening to the board.
Well,
Our
I'm making the
members, good.
proposal that we add that in the $10,000.
Okay.
And again, we'll discuss that in executive
Yeah.
session.
But thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
That's
Anything
it.
else?
Not for me. Any questions? I guess not.
No,
No?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.
thank you, you too.
Okay, the next item is Justice Court budget.
Hello,
How's everyone?
how are you?
I'm well. Okay, so, some of these line items are relatively typical. Probably the biggest adjustment is for our chief clerk. She was new in 2022, so we're trying to bring her up to what the previous chief clerk's salary was. That's line item 102. 103, 104, and 105 are our union contract employees, so that's the slight increase that the union contract requires. Our armed,
So I do have a question for you. On the agenda tonight, there's a proposal for a potential new hire.
Yes.
Is that already here in your budget, or is that in
yes,
addition?
no, it's we're replacing, it's not
Okay.
new, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right,
What's on
yeah,
there?
I'm trying
Thank
to
you.
understand that.
Yeah, we lost one gal, and we're replacing her, so.
Do you know what line item that would be? Is that 104 or 105 a year?
Yeah, we have three other clerks, 103, 4, and 5.
Okay.
So.
Which
the
one would
newly
this
hired one
replace?
is Emily Voss, I believe.
Okay. And that would
We
be...
haven't hired her yet, but.
Okay. Thanks.
So, yeah, she's already in the budget. So. 106 is our armed court officers. We actually went over budget this year, so we're asking for a 20% increase. And the reason for the going over the budget is because the larger the court calendars get, at some point, the court officers require us to add another one just for general safety. So that's why we're asking for a 20% increase, so. Some of our line items haven't changed at all. We've got, shredding has gone up a little bit. Our Westlaw, that's our legal research, that's gone up by $250. Things like file folders and office supplies, those have gone up a little bit, $250 a piece. The interpreters, that's line item 406. We're asking for an increase of $700. We seem to have a lot more defendants that
Can we just go
need
back, real?
interpreters.
You're going pretty quick. I just have a question for you. So you also have here a 107 court attendant. No money's been spent there at all, but you have $7,000 in the budget for it? What's that for?
Yeah, Chris says that can all remain the same. I'm not sure what that's for exactly.
We spent $780 in 2020, and nothing in '21, so
Yeah.
just wondering what that 7 is? If you could take a look at that?
The one that's 780 and then had a budget for
7,000 in
2022.
22 and then 23.
It's supposed to be for, it's court attendant, contingency payroll, and comp time. I think it's all rolled up into one.
Because you do have a contingency payroll line here, 198.
Oh, right, that's 199, yeah, 107, it looks like it's a court attendant, but I'm not, I know at one point in time, we had an unofficered, or an unarmed, court officer. We don't have that right now.
Okay.
And I don't know, that's probably what that line item is for.
Right.
I'd rather have armed court officers. The ones that are unarmed seem relatively, shall we say, superfluous.
Okay.
Let's see, where were we? So, yeah, the interpreters, which is line item 406, we seem to be getting a lot more defendants. We've got, we've had Spanish, we had an Armenian, we have several Chinese. We are definitely a melting pot in the town of Lockingers, so.
Well, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing, it's a good thing. Cost for our copier has gone up a scotch. Postage has gone up about $500. We've got our training back in here. We haven't gone in the last couple of years because they didn't have it. But it looks like they're gonna have it in 2023, so we put that in the budget. We got a grant, which is wonderful for, it was basically $7,000, which we used for new desks, et cetera, for the girls. So if anyone hasn't seen what their little area looks like, you should pop in. It looks quite nice and they're very happy. So no change to the telephone. And this much I can tell you about revenue without getting into trouble, is that in 2021, last year, we raised about $632,000. We're on track in 2022 to do about $400,000. So. Questions?
No? Thank you, Heather.
Thanks,
You're
Heather.
Anytime.
Thank you, Heather.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, Leanne.
Hello.
Good
Hi,
evening.
Leanne. So mine's pretty straightforward also. Line 1330-400A for the software, I've increased that by 5%. I did the same for postage on 1330401A. And there was no change to 1330403A. And the only other thing I'm asking for is $1,000 on line 1330200A for 3 new monitors. And also too, just when you look at the postage, Wappinger Central does reimburse us for their share.
How much of the 11,000 did they give us back, do you know?
Wappinger Central last year was around 5,100.
How much?
5,100.
And there is one other adjustment we talked about, .100. So 1330 .100.
Yes,
So we're in agreement now with Frederick, correct?
as far as I know, yes.
Okay.
The changes that we discussed still weren't made to this sheet.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a double count there, Dick. Some of it's also carried in another line item. So Leanne and Frederick have reconciled that.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, thank you, Leanne.
Thanks.
Thanks
Thank
for all
you.
your hard work. Okay. Christian, please.
All right, my budget's not that, not that many lines. One of the biggest issues that I have is salary, one for me and one for Tom Barr. I had my budget hearings with the town of Fishkill first. They agreed on a yearly salary for me, the total, which the comptroller there, and the supervisor agreed to. But then when I put that money in my budget, it's not being honored. So my salary now is about $108,000. Officials agreed to $120,000. They've done some significant raises for their personnel in 2022. Mid-year, they did large raises for a lot of people. They're willing to give large raises to people who didn't get them in 2022 for 2023, but it seems like I'm always caught in this conundrum between 2 town boards and 2 supervisors. Like back in 2017, I couldn't get the supervisors to agree, or couldn't even get them to talk to each other. So I ended up with a 0% increase when everyone else got increases. There's been other years where Wappingers was willing to give me increases, but Fishkill said, well, we're not doing increases this year, so I ended up with 0. There's been other years where, Wappinger's willing to do 3%, and Fishkill's only saying only 2 or only 1%. So I always end up never getting the fair treatment that everybody else get, because I'm stuck between 2 boards that I can never seem to get in line with each other. So this is the 1 year where Fishkill's finally agreed to say, well, look, we're willing to do this number, but then when it comes to Wappingers now, we're not willing to do the numbers. So I'm
Well,
always
that's
stuck in
not true,
between.
Christian.
So-
I talked with and confirmed with Supervisor Albra that we both had agreed upon the 4.5% increase over what it is this year. I talked with him on the phone, and he's confirmed that.
Okay, well, that's not when I had the budget meeting with him in his
Yeah.
office, that's not what we agreed to.
Yeah.
So that's not the
So I'll
number
talk
that,
with them again, but
that's the number that their comptroller told the Frederick, that was not the number that they sent up. So, when they talked about what the number was gonna be. So, but again, I'm always stuck in between. I'm always stuck, never, getting a number.
So I think what we need to do is get a little more clarification, that's all, and we'll talk
Yeah,
about this.
I'll talk with them
So-
again.
That's fine.
Because that's what, he told
Okay.
me. Of course, I communicated to you, Al, told you that.
So, and I've done some analysis, like, I make $6.06 per parcel for my two towns. But the Beacon East Fishkill, which is also a joint assessing, she gets paid $7.61 a parcel. Poughkeepsie gets paid $6.96 a parcel. Poughkeepsie gets $9.70 a parcel. LaGrange gets $13.16 a parcel. I'm sure if you went through all the other towns, although a lot of the other towns are smaller, part-time assessors, so I really didn't want to use those as a comparison, but they're making significantly more per parcel than I'm making. So, and even if I end up getting the $120,000 that I'm asking for, I'm still at $6.72 a parcel, which still keeps me at the lowest per parcel rate in the county. So, the other line is Tom Barr, the data collector. We've been asking and trying to get something done with his salary for a while. I feel, and he feels that he does very similar work to what the building inspectors do. He needs to read plans, he needs to go out and inspect properties, he has to take pictures of properties. He does multiple inspections on properties, and really, Tom does his job fantastically. So, when you have an employee that gets their job done extremely well and makes your life so much easier, you want to pay them more money to keep them around and keep them happy. So we've had a lot of talk about trying to get him more money. I put in the budget for $55,000 like the building inspectors get, but I haven't had a lot of traction with that. So, but we have discussed,
Is he covered under the union contract?
Yes.
Okay.
so.
Yeah, as I discussed with you, you make your case, and that's fine.
Right.
I have no problem with, Tom getting an increase, so that's up to you to, recommend and to
Right.
push for.
So, I mean, we could do an MOU that
I
the
think
union
this
doesn't have
is-
an issue with that. So,
So it's okay to talk about this, but no decision is going to be made tonight, just so you know that.
okay.
We'll take your comments on our
Right.
advisement.
Well, I'm just saying, when you have an employee who's good at their job and does multiple things for the town,
Agreed?
I mean.
But believe me, we're fully aware of what Tom does.
Yes.
He does a great job, so thank you.
And then I need 2 new lines I was hoping to add. There's one for the union allowances for clothing. That's in the contract. You can get $450 per year in clothing. I always thought that came out of some central line. But this year I found out that actually comes out of the budget, and we're taking it out of office supplies right now, which has me in the negative, because I didn't realize that came out of my budget.
Right.
So when Tom got his allowances and put them in, we're blowing the line. So I was hoping, like the building department, they have a separate line
Sure.
for their people.
So what is the average you're asking for? How much?
That's $450,
$450.
which is the amount that you can put in, the max you can put in for.
Okay.
The building department, I think, has a line for $1350, because I think 3 of their people
Yeah.
qualify for it. So, and then I have another issue, the county of Dutchess prints our assessment change notices. They print them, fold them, stuff them in an envelope, and then give us all that work. They charge us 25 cents per piece to make that happen. So this year, the bill was about $2,400. So we got to find some place in the budget to take that out of, because we don't have a line for that. But this is a recurring charge. We've had this charge for several years now. So, and Fishkill, I was, been able to get them to add that to the budget, and I have a line for that. So I was trying to add a line for, I don't know what we're going to call it, Dutchess County Printing or something to that effect. But really, I don't have, this year we sent out over 8,000 letters. We don't have the in-house ability to print those letters, fold those letters, stuff them, and then get them to the post office.
How much do you
So
need?
I'm asking for 2,000. So this
Just
year I went
remember,
over that.
just
but-
remember, this is an ask. This is not that you're going to necessarily get it, but
Right.
again, this is budget season. We want to hear what your needs are.
Right, well, this is a charge that's been recurring now for several years.
I got it.
So it's just, it's time that we budget it because we don't have that power in-house. And even Fishkill bought a folding machine, but there's no way it can handle 8,000 folds and stuffs. So, I mean, it gets jammed and stuck every 20 or 30, and we have one here, but it only does like one every 15 or 20. Per minute, it only does about 20, I think. So to do 8,000 of those through that machine, we would be there forever trying to get that done. So. And I think
That's it?
that's about it, so.
Okay.
I think, I'm asking for a little bit more in postage because we budgeted $42.50 for this year and we're at $46.07. But again, when we send out, I mean, it was a big year for the market is a big year for assessment changes. We had a lot of them. It costs a lot of money to send those letters out. By law, we need to send them out first class. So it'd be nice if we could do postcards or something, it'd be cheaper, but they don't allow that. And the rest is pretty much the same. I don't have a bill yet for the appraisal that we did on the Hannaford. So if you see that under consulting services, it shows that we haven't spent any money yet. But once the bill comes in from the appraiser, that's going to be, I think the original bid was, do you remember, Jim? It was like $7,000 or $8,000, but we didn't have them do the full workup. Once we got to the point with the negotiations, we put them on hold, but I haven't seen the bill. So I don't know if you have, but,
I have not.
okay, so maybe I'll call them up and ask them to get us a bill in this fiscal year, so. But again, those appraisals are very expensive. We budget $10,000 here, Fishkill budgets $15,000. We try really hard not to have to get appraisals. We're pretty good with the negotiating process, we're pretty good with figuring out values, but it comes time sometimes where we can't come to a meeting of the minds and we gotta go get an appraisal. And these things are not inexpensive. So,
We've been fortunate that we haven't had to have an appraiser testify,
yes.
so.
Well, that's the other thing, to do an appraisal sometimes is $7,000 to $10,000 just to do the appraisal, and then they have to go to court to testify. It's usually $150 an hour. It's a minimum of 10 hours or something like that. They get travel time. They get time to review the other side's appraisal, so those costs add up really quick. So
You're
we've
also
been-
fortunate enough in 2021 not to have any, 'cause you got $0 spent, so that's good.
Right. Yeah, there are times when we
Okay.
some of these cases move slowly, some move quickly, but we're pretty good at figuring out the values on properties, but sometimes we can't come to a meeting of the minds and we got to get an appraisal. Because the judge is telling us, go get an appraisal by this date, or, when you come, if you don't show up with one, we're going to give the other side everything they want. And that wouldn't be good for us. So, and the other age-old problem is we do the assessments for the county, for the school, for everybody else, but we're the only ones who pay for the whole process. So, and we've talked to the school about it for years, but they don't really have any interest in intervening or helping to pay, which is just the way it is. So, but unless you have any more questions, I think I'm out of lines, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christian.
Jerry?
Good evening.
Hi, Jerry.
Good evening.
Well, you know me, I'm a needy guy, so I'm gonna hit you hard. I don't really want to change too much. I mean, I see where my telephone, that 3510-400, that's been 1,000, and I don't think, well, we could drop that some. I mean, I think 700 and something I see is the highest I've seen in a while. I don't know, I leave 750 in there or something. I mean, I'm just trying to, look down here. The only, I would like to put something for equipment. If I save some money in the telephone, maybe give myself $250 to buy some shirts that say Town of Wappingers on them. That'd be nice. And that's pretty much, that's the only thing I can really think of. I mean, the veterinary services and the kennel rent, because the accounting's been so poor previously, if we have to really pay for kennel and vet bills, we may want to keep that. the only thing that, I never saw this before, is stray cats.
Yeah, that's a new line ad we put in. We had somebody come and do a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and we agreed, the board agreed to do $1,000 for them. So I know that's not anything you put in your budget. It's a brand-new line.
Yeah, all right. Well,
It's to an
that-
outside agency.
Yes.
So it should be listed as, is it listed as 400?
Probably with the veterinary services.
412.
Kennel?
Yeah, so
There.
if
Probably
it's,
put it in the account.
it's a contract expense for an outside agency.
But yeah, that's it. And, just for new news, remember the last time I was here, we talked about having an issue with the Dutchess County SPCA?
Yes.
With, some great news is that Kim McNamee has been hired to oversee the humane law, and she has some real training.
Good.
And I hope that we will never have a problem like we had last time.
Good.
So that's the best news I can tell you.
Good news.
Okay.
Good. Thank you, Jerry.
And
Thank you,
any
Jerry.
more questions?
Thank you. Yeah,
We're good.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Joe?
Keep yours under an hour, please. Mr. Power.
If I can figure out how to get rid of this thing. I guess not. Anyway, members of the town board, public, I'm here to present the clerk budget. So I'm going to talk about the budget, mention the reception desk, recycle center analysis, which I do every year, just to, might as well do it now, because it has to be done by December when we put the tickets on sale. And then the point system for the rules and basically your acknowledgement to follow the rules. So anyway, this is the budget. The salaries, you guys will be deciding on that. So that's the 100 items. As far as the capital, 5,000 we have for a counter, and, which we've asked for a number of years, but it always seems to come out of the budget. And that's to make it like every other town clerk's office in the county, if not the state. Basically a counter that goes into the clerk's office so people can come in, not stop at the desk, and rather than read the nice sign that you guys put up years ago.
So your door is going to be open all the time then?
Well, like every other town clerks in the county and state. The other line items, the .400s, are pretty much bills that come in and go right out. A lot of the coding I do myself. I code 3 languages, so there's no programming fees. They're pretty much pass-throughs. The number of laws that you produce will determine the number that goes into E-code. The minute track is the minute track. The laserfiche is the laserfiche. So they're just bills that come in and go out. So there's really no. So if you have no questions on my budget, I will move to the counter. It'd be nice if we move it against the wall so that people can use it to sit down and fill out forms and all, and people can pass through and go to the proper departments rather than using us as the reception. So I'd like you guys to acknowledge that we can at least push it against the wall to allow residents to sit down. Do we have a motion in a second?
Go out there and move.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
move
go
it.
ahead, that's fine.
Okay, very
You
good.
can move it.
All right, recycle center analysis. You remember last year we reduced a lot of the fees in order to streamline the people coming in during
Yes.
COVID. And I think it's fair to show you what the revenue, the effect on revenue. So in 2001, we had 89,000, excuse my eyes, I thought I was going to be able to walk over there, 89,000 and change in revenue. We reduced the fees for Freon, single, double axle, and the garbage and senior, and we actually generated 87,000, 2,000 less. So we didn't, we didn't get as, the increase in the annual fee for under 60 and over 60 didn't quite cover the cost, the revenues we got from Freon, and it's all right there. The 2023 estimate would be, based on the prices set, would give you a revenue of 95,000, reducing the loss that we have. As you can see, the expenses, the salary of solid waste laborers and the highway staff, the garbage collection and contractual aid, the solid waste collection, and the compost machine rental. All that has shown a loss of 36,000 in 2021. We had 180,000 loss this year.
and estimated based on that increase a 220,000 loss. So, and that's with the increase that I reflected there in the 2023. So this is nothing to be discussed now, but maybe just to take a look at this and I can update this.
So I
add
do have
new
a question
prices.
for you, though. So you're, with the labor line, I understand the Saturdays, working Saturdays, it's overtime. But if you have employees that are here on Wednesdays, their cost is already sunk, so you're already paying their salary. So I don't know how you apply that to say it's a part of the labor cost here. You're already paying them. They're just not doing something for highway or something for buildings and grounds. You're paying them anyway.
Well, nevertheless, you have a significant loss.
I don't
that's
doubt we have
increasing
a
every year.
loss, but my point is, I don't think it's as bad as your analysis shows here.
Right.
We can agree to disagree, and
Well, I mean, a loss is a loss. But
I-
nevertheless, we're trying to reduce the effect, because remember,
And we do
not all the
appreciate that.
residents use the recycle center. And so the rest of the, I know not all things are passed through, like some items, some things are, they don't pay for themselves, they're not a push, so to speak. Maybe some of the recreation items, like twirling and things, you'd want to recapture the revenue that you're expending. And I'm just saying, to reduce some of it, I don't know if you're going to agree to those increases this year, but inflation is here.
can you send us this, please?
You'll have a copy right now, Susan.
Okay, thank you.
I don't like
So-
giving out copies at the beginning, because then everybody's fumbling through the
So with
copies.
respect to the recycle, Frederick, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that even on Wednesdays, the costs for the employees at Recycle Center are billed against the line on Recycle Center, not against highway or buildings and grounds.
A fund
Highway
versus highway.
employees can only be billed for highway work. So
Point
if
point
they're
being is the money's in the budget already. They're already getting paid. What, doesn't make a difference what line. They're getting paid already. It's not like you're adding above and beyond.
They're getting paid out of
A different bucket, but they're still getting paid, and the money's in the budget already, so it's.
Correct, yes. But it's,
But, yeah.
it's charged against the Recycle Center.
But all Joe is doing is giving an accounting of the
Exactly.
recycle center.
Thank you,
know,
Richard.
It's not a loss or, to the town,
No,
because we
but
are
that's what-
accounting for it, but it's,
But-
is this recycle yard breaking even or low, costing us money in the town? I think that's what he's trying to do.
Exactly.
But you need to,
One-
you really
one
should
last-
normalize that, Joe.
Excuse me?
You should normalize that. Normalize it so that you assume that if they're getting paid out of a different bucket, I get you're doing a P&L here for the recycling center, but from a town perspective, you're not really losing all that money because it's coming out of a different bucket.
That's the difference between financial accounting and managerial accounting. Managerial accounting is clear.
No, what it is it's a T account. Anyway, go
This
ahead.
is your loss. This is to let you
Joe-
know what we're losing.
It seems that we reduced the levels of pay last year, we combined some, so maybe we have to tweak the rates.
That's what I was getting at.
But I think that
Thank you.
what we did last year was good.
Yeah, double axles,
Right.
things like that.
At least
yeah.
cut into it a little bit. We understand it's not a push or pass-through, but at least help a little bit. One last item is this non-resident issue. I agree, looked at the point system. If someone, the rules state that if someone does not have a driver's license or a registration that matches the address, then they need to have at least 7 points, whether it be a registered voter, they've got 7 points, a number of these different items, town tax bill, utility tax. Of course, they're going to have a town tax bill if they're a landlord, but, and then rent it out. But if they have a utility bill, which is another 3 points, and say a bank record with an address, that would cover them. So I'm asking for your authorization now, because we get hit with a lot of angry people who want a permit, and they
I
need
know
to
we've
prove.
all dealt with this over the last couple of years, and it definitely we have to take it into consideration.
So can we have a motion and a second on that to follow the rules?
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
But good point.
You have, next, yeah,
Well, he's not.
next meeting's the November 14th. We'll have an answer for you.
Thank you, Joseph.
And whatever you guys decide is fine with me, but let us know before we do this.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Paoloni.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So supervising the board, really the only change there is the salary increases for everyone at the 4.5%. That's it.
Should I be putting that in the preliminary budget to be approved tonight, these elected salaries?
I think it's subject to discussion, and it sounds like that may not be ready to vote tonight from what I'm hearing. Do we have to vote tonight?
Yeah, it's got to be, so what do we have?
It's got to be published, and it's got to be in,
It's got to be in 5 days prior,
yeah, it doesn't have to be tonight, but that's before election.
so, and we have the next meeting is going to be,
November 14th, right?
no,
Oh, 5th is a workshop session.
You can vote on it.
Yeah, it's a board meeting though, so we could vote on it.
Meeting's a board meeting, right? Yeah, you can vote on that.
well, the public hearing on the budget has to be no later than the Thursday after Election Day.
For the final, right? What about the preliminary? Same time?
Preliminary, yes,
Same time.
right.
So it does not need to be voted tonight.
The salaries,
Because it has to be in,
Okay.
so the public hearing notice has to have the elected official salaries, and that has to be published 5 days prior to the board meeting.
So this is only elected officials only?
Yeah, that's what has to be reported publicly.
So,
So what's the deadline date, Jim, where it has to be published?
yeah, I mean, really by the 4th,
November 4th?
right.
usually we close them pretty short term before election.
Right.
Southern Duchess doesn't publish any other day but Wednesday. We've got an issue there.
Right.
So we've never had a problem before.
So we just have to make sure we set 7 salaries then?
Yeah.
So can we, I don't know if we can do this, Jim, can we go in executive session later on and just kind of go through it quickly, or we're not allowed to do that? Just to make sure we're all on the same page? I think we are, but I'm not sure if that's allowed to be discussed or not.
You don't have to do it now. You can do it after executive session.
Okay, so we can, okay.
Good. Any other comments, Al? Do you want, since you had taken a look, at things, do you want to have any other discussion points?
Yeah,
Based
so-
on our discussion, I know, and let the
So,
community know.
yeah, so just a couple of things. So number one, I've looked at the supervisor's budget, and again, we have to stay at the 2% New York State tax cap, and we've done that based on his budget. I think the other couple of things we've done too is from a rates perspective, with assessments going up or coming down slightly, which is another good news story. We do have a lot of spending impacts, though, that people need to be aware of, and I'm sure they are, because they're feeling their pocketbook today. But, fuel increases, materials increases, benefit increases, as people, spoke about tonight, whether it be medical, retirements, wages or so. So it's, I agree it's a good budget at where it is today. We've got some things under the covers I think we need to address, have some differences, but we always, do make adjustments, as we have in the past, as we do every single year. One of the things I'd like to look at is I'd like to look at the amount of fund balance that we've used. We have a significant amount of fund balance, and I think we're going to find as we go through this, at least in my opinion, after going through all the budgets, department heads with the exception of buildings and grounds, I think there's some opportunity there. And what I like to be able to do is I want to get us on our run rate so that, in 2024, 2025, as we go out in the out years, that, we're not using as much fund balance as we would be using this year. Because again, once you set that base run rate, it becomes a problem where unless you cut some things significantly, then what ends up happening is you can't make your budgets and you start using much more of the fund balance. So again, I want to try to use as little as fund balance. And I understand that New York State's requiring us to, use some of that fund balance to be at a certain point, and I agree we should do that. But again, I just want to make sure that, as we know, revenue's going to probably be down next year. We expect the sales tax revenue to be down next year, and we can already kind of see that. Also from a mortgage tax perspective, which is in the B fund, we also see that. Sorry, that's the A fund. What we're seeing is that that's starting to come down. Our controller showed us a number of statistics where it's gone from a high of about 130,000 down to about 80,000. And we fully expect with interest rates going up next year that what's going to happen is that the refinances and people buying new homes and moving up from New York City or Westchester County, that's going to probably slow down. So we just got to watch, again, mortgage tax, sales tax. We went to a new formula this year. Before we were on a fixed rate based on what the county gave us. That's going to change. So, we get 9%, I guess, of the total of what the county brings in. So it's a new formula. So we're kind of in an area where we've never been before, so we don't have a fixed amount. So again, we just got to watch things. Overall, I think it's a pretty prudent budget. Again, I just want to take a close look at some of the fund balance sheets. That's it.
I think the main, goal and objective was, as Al said, to reduce fund balance, keep it as low as possible, but also to try to, at least for the coming year, keeping our tax rates, very, base without any significant increases. In fact, what I had done in the budget was try to set it a little bit down, just briefly. So that's where the fund balance comes, and we're also trying not to touch much, if any, of the A fund balance. It's really coming out of the B. So I agree fully, and Al's been doing a good job of just kicking the tires.
Thank you.
We will be reviewing this budget, and there will be changes made. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll move into resolutions. The first resolution is 2022-151, resolution authorizing contract for appraisal services for potential purchase of real estate. We discussed this last time. Jim, do you want to further?
We can leave this on the table.
We'll table it again?
Yeah.
Okay, you haven't been able to find, okay. Do I have a motion to
I'll
table?
make a motion to table.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion is tabled. Resolution 2022-156. This is a resolution introducing local law number 7 of 2022 for the purpose of amending Chapter 240 zoning of the town code with respect to a variety of matters. Jim, would you like to comment on this?
So I just had an opportunity to review the resolution. Since this applies townwide, it would be a type 1 action. And then also, before it gets circulated to any other agencies, there needs to be the seeker documents prepared.
So just so the public knows, the reason why I proposed this resolution is last meeting, Councilman Beal so eloquently stated the process of the zoning process. It comes to this board and we hear both sides. In reading the statute, the reason why I wanted it removed is it gets away from that process. It allows the applicant to hit some checkpoints, apply for a special permit, and then we have no choice but to give them that permit. So I believe the town likes the process we've adopted and been using, and that's the reason why I proposed the resolution.
Jim, you said the motion, the resolution's deficient?
I mean, for purposes of circulation to, outside agencies, particularly Dutchess County Planning, you'd need to have a long-form environmental assessment form prepared.
Before the resolution can be adopted? Introduced, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so that should go with it.
Are there other issues?
As I mentioned before, it's a type 1 action rather than unlisted.
what's that mean, if anything?
Well,
for
a type
the
1 action
residents?
presumes that, basically for type 1 actions, it states that the nature of the action is of such a character that an environmental impact statement is, I won't say presumed, but contemplated, whereas an unlisted action does not have the same presumption. So, you know, for purposes of typing the action and then reviewing it, here, the town board is the only, should be the only involved agency with respect to this, but it requires review by Dutchess County Department of Planning, and they won't review it without an environmental impact statement. Or not, an environmental assessment form, part 1.
So this should be tabled tonight?
Or can it be approved with the, looking at the, we have to do the secra part afterwards?
Well, I mean, the resolution requires the town clerk to circulate it, and it sets a public hearing, so, for the next
Okay.
meeting, November 14th meeting, so, you know, no action.
So we can't approve it tonight?
Yeah, no, I mean, you need to get an environmental assessment form prepared.
And the town clerk does that?
Typically, the town planner does it, but
But the town clerk can do it?
I guess, I mean, we could discuss it more in executive, in attorney-client session.
Okay. So, do you have a motion to table?
Table.
Okay. Is there a motion second? Chris, a
Motion to table.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to table, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Okay. And, let's see. The next item is Resolution 2022-157. This is approving preliminary budget for fiscal year 2023 and directing a public hearing. So this table, Jim,
Yeah, that requires the public hearing notice with respect to the salaries of elected officials.
right, so, you know, motion to table, we'll discuss it.
I'll make the motion.
Yeah, is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor to table?
Aye.
Okay. So next resolution is 2022-158, resolution awarding contract for fence replacement at Robinson Lane Fields. Al, do you want to discuss that, or? We've
Yeah,
discussed it
so I
a
was
lot, but
hoping-
we've got new bids back in, so.
So I was kind of hoping that CPL would be here tonight, but anyway, I can.
He's on, isn't he?
Is Tim on?
Yeah, he's on.
Can you hear me?
Yes. It's John.
This is Jonathan DeRocco.
Jonathan.
I'm sitting in for Tim Mood tonight.
Who's sick, so.
Okay, so Jonathan and I spoke earlier today, so there's a number of new bids out here. Actually, there's 3 new bids. They're pretty significant, a lot more than they were back in the July time period. So what we're looking at is, and there's 4 different alternatives here, so depending on what you take a look at, we have to pick and choose, because what we agreed to do going back probably 6 months ago is we had that huge storm that hit us. We were going to get some FEMA money. We'd said we'd get about $100,000. We spent about $25,000 of that $100,000, which means we have about $75,000 left to spend. If you look at all these different bids here, because it has 4, again, it's got a base bid, it's got alternative 1, 2, 3, and 4, and depending what we choose, and I would recommend that one of the things we should do is, again, each one of these has its own separate fence situation they do it. So as an example, in the base bid, it has field I-2, R2, demolition, and construction. If you go to alternative 1, it's the R3 field, and it's only the home run fence that's up. So each one of these has a little different alternative. So what I think we should do, as long as the board is okay with this, take these different alternatives back to Little League and say, we have a $75,000 or so commitment we kind of made before, and we should probably try to stay within that. Because again, if you did all of these alternatives, it would be very significant, over $200,000, and some of them are as high as $500,000. So pretty significant. So again, depending on the alternatives, I think that myself and maybe another board member should probably try to go to Little League and say, okay, if you could do something, which one of these would you prefer to stay within that 75K or so? Again, I'll leave it up to the board because, again, these were a lot higher than we ever expected these bids to come in at. If I look at one of the bids here in particular, it's $208,000, and if you go back 4 months ago, it was $126,000. So they're up significantly, and I just don't feel I could authorize spending taxpayer dollars to go up to $208,000. So again, I'd like to reach out to Little League, Dick, if you want to do it with me or whatever.
We can do it.
We can do that and talk to Little League president and see which alternatives they have. So I recommend that we table this until we get some kind of commitment with Little League. Again, I'd like to sit down with them and make sure that they're comfortable with what we're thinking. So I'm hoping by November 14th, before that,
Sure.
we can meet with them and then get their...
Well, again, we could even discuss this on the 5th and vote on it as well, since we're talking about capital spending.
Okay.
You know, and it is a board meeting, so we can do that. So I would say that we, you know.
Get a hold of them before then, or we
get
can
a hold
actually
of
bring them in
before
here.
then, and-
Okay,
And they can even come to the meeting, so.
okay. So
Okay.
for now, I make a motion to table this one.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and second to table, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2022-159, hiring a justice clerk position. I'd like to have a motion to table so we get some advice of legal counsel.
I'll move it. Table.
A motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next resolution, 2022-160, Greenway Trail Resolution. In the process of constantly looking at possible grants, we came across this one opportunity which is available, and this would be available to improve, you know, upon our park, our greenway trails. Since we have a significant amount of work to be done at Reese Park because of the bridge, you know, that's come down and that we've already removed, and some other trail work, is working with Scott Williams. It's no cost to the town. We just need to have a resolution passed in order to get it filed quickly. I mean, like tomorrow, in order to get this at least considered for the grant application. There is a match requirement that the grant would not exceed 50% of project cost. I think we've gotten preliminary costs that even the bridge itself will be probably that full amount, but we could also distribute it to fix up Reese Park other ways. So that's the purpose behind it and why I put it on kind of at the last minute, because it just came available.
So we don't know how much this is going to be in total?
No,
Because if
yeah,
we got a match half, I just want to...
The grant that we're applying for would be up to $100,000. But, you know, like I said, we don't have to do the whole thing, you know, as far as what we were to use. I'm waiting for, I guess, Steve and CPL to tell us what might be the additional cost for that bridge and for other repair work on the Greenway trails. No bond is required for it.
Well, for filing the application, it does not obligate us
Right.
to
So-
any terms at this point, correct, Counsel?
Correct.
So I'll move that we file the application, then based on the outcome of the application, we can decide from there.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is acknowledgement of the correspondence log. That's Resolution 2022-161.
Second.
A motion second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Items for special consideration. We had the human resource firm interview. I've also been talking with Dutchess County, and they have a personnel administrator position and 10 people on the list. In order for them to release more information, then we'd have to have a resolution to approve at least pursuing that. We can discuss that more in the executive session. And then, I guess, Jonathan, the last item of the regular meeting here until executive session would be engineer update. So you want to, give, your update that Tim was going to provide, to us.
Sure, the most critical item right now is Carnwath. We need to decide which one of the grants or both that we want to either extend or terminate at this point. We're coming up on the deadline to request a renewal for them. So the two that we're talking about, one is for the water line, and then the other one is for ADA upgrades for a community center on the ground level of the building.
So were we ever able to combine the two grants, the 150 and the 50, so we could complete the water and potentially put heat in the building?
Jonathan, do you know? I know Tim had been
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay.
So the question was, we have the grant for the 150 and the 50. 50K is for the water, 150 is for other upgrades. So what I asked was, were we able to combine the two grants, so we have 200,000 in total, so we could put the water in the building and also potentially put heaters, Mitsubishi heaters, in the building as well. So were we able to get the two combined?
I believe they have to be used separately.
So who do we need to ask if we combine the two then?
Well, it's a community, the 150 is a community development block grant, so there's certain projects that qualify for that, one of which is making buildings ADA compatible. So that's not, community development block grant funds are only available for particular types of
Federal money.
projects.
It's federal money, so there's stipulations on that.
Right.
On that. So why don't we just ask this question? Can we extend these grants to give us more opportunities to explore further what the stipulations and parameters are for the use? Does it hurt to extend these? Do we have the option to extend these? I think that's what he was asking.
So, yes, so the issue with respect to the community development block grant was, the last time the county reached out to CPL, they had indicated, and I think the board is aware, that the funding is only available for projects that can be used on a year-round basis. So, Jonathan, is that correct?
Yes.
So, the issue is extending, whether you want to extend it or not, I don't think that necessarily is going to change. And, there was, to make the building capable to be used year-round would require a substantial investment for heating for the building, which currently is not funded through any grants.
Okay.
So the problem was that the first grant for 50,000, last time Tim spoke to us, was going to cost us over $100,000 to put the water in. And then to do the other upgrades for the 150, Tim gave us a margin of $465,000 to like $800,000.
Right.
And so it didn't make sense at that point in time. So what we thought we could do is if you can combine the two grants, get at least one project done over there, you'll be able to use the water year-round, right? And so that was what we're trying to do here if we can. And I don't want to see us lose the grant money because the county will say, well, you didn't use it, so maybe next time we don't give you a grant. So I just want to make sure we use the money in a smart way if it's possible. So if we can extend it, as Councilman Beal said, maybe we take a look at that and see if there's some way to combine the two, because tonight I don't think we have that answer.
I suppose we could, you're correct, we don't have the answer. Suppose that we could put this, and hopefully, Tim is well on the November 5th, agenda, and then we're going to be looking at a number of other potential costs, and I'm not saying we're going to incur those, but, then there may be some bond resolution or something as we look at the options. So I think what Tim needs is from the board tonight, basically a resolution that says that we are continue to explore this, interested in this project. We will have an upcoming meeting, to further explore the capital costs and expense related to this project, something like that.
What's,
I
do,
think maybe also, you know, obviously the intent of the board is to extend the grant if possible.
right.
And, you know,
Yeah,
if
exactly.
if it's not possible, then.
But what's the deadline? Do we know the deadline on the
Like,
CBG?
I think the end of this week, I believe. Joey, do you know?
I think so.
Right, it's the end of this week, right? Yeah. So
All right.
that's
So
the issue.
I'll move, we extend the Community Development Block Grant if possible. That's a federal funded grant, so there are probably restrictions, further restrictions on that funding and deadline. So we need to get a handle on that. I think the intent would be if we can extend it so that we can discuss this at the workshop and have, you know, a plan.
Right.
I don't want to lose the opportunity for the funding. But again, the Community Development Block Grants are very specific with respect to what you can spend the money on and when they sunset. So we don't have those answers
Correct.
right now.
I know that Tim has had discussions, and unfortunately, he can't make it.
Right.
And Joey, as I recall, you know, the 50,000 one, you have more flexibility, you know, right? We have much more flexibility on that because of the nature of that one, but Bill
What was
is
that? That was a
correct.
MIG grant? The
Yes.
50,000 is county money, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, so of course it's a smaller amount, so
Yeah.
it has less restriction. But that one, I'm not as concerned about losing since we have that money. But I am concerned about the Community Development Block Grant. That's something that we really need to be on top of.
150.
And you can use it more than just ADA, yes,
Yeah.
restrictions,
Right.
but we gotta be creative.
I think infrastructure, capital infrastructure might be applicable.
Yeah, and it goes toward that.
Pipes
and
in the
it would
ground.
certainly make it, you know,
So can we find out what the definition is that we can use the money for so that we can see, because my personal opinion is, I want to use the $200,000, but I don't want to have to go taxpayer money and bond for another $700,000, $800,000. I just don't want to do that to make these projects viable.
I agree.
Right, and that defeats the purpose on
Exactly.
grants. I mean, we want grants so that we can do things that we couldn't normally do within our scope of the budget. So if we get a small grant that obligates us to a large amount, that's basically defeats the purpose. So
Right.
I agree with your methodology. I think that we need to have further discussion at the workshop on this. And Joey, if you can, not right now, but if you can provide us, just send us the link to what the parameters are, and we can take a look at it.
so, Bill, you had a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any nays or abstentions, seeing none, the motion passed. Jonathan, then you go discuss with Tim and see what we need specifically in writing vis-a-vis this resolution. You know, Joey, maybe you might know as well. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'll discuss it with Tim.
Okay,
you.
yeah,
Thanks,
and then
John.
get back to us maybe tomorrow, if you can. Okay, thank you.
Is
Any,
there anything else for me?
no, I don't have anything.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, good
Good
night.
night.
I make a motion.
Bill,
for the
welcome
consent?
back. You know, any other special, you know, any business, you know, other business, I did mention that, you know, you were absent because of the passing
Yeah.
of Bob, you know, so, of the former commissioner, so.
Yeah, if I can just say,
Sure.
again, tonight, I was late because we had to show our respects for an individual that served this town for 44 years, and 17 of those years as fire chief of the Chelsea Fire Department. Bob Van Tassel was not an individual who we expected to lose. This was totally unexpected. Very high-energy individual, running marathons as recently as just a month or so ago. Really turned his life around after having a medical scare a number of years ago, and began running, and it was really a shock. So tonight was the wake and the funeral and the service, where basically we shut down the village of Fishkill for a short time to show respect to an individual that really served this town, and as well as the town of Fishkill and the Chelsea Fire District. So again, my apologies for being late this evening to this business meeting, but again, this was yet another reminder of how short life is. And I ask everyone to remember his family. This is a very difficult time for his family, so thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, a motion to go into executive session. The purpose would be to discuss the several tabled items, Justice Clerk, you know, the advice of counsel, and also the salary issue.
Potential appointment of a person to a position.
Correct.
Steve has a question.
Yeah, last item on there was truck purchase.
There's nothing on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda.
I came late, but I added it to the public.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see it in here.
It's not.
No,
So is it on the agenda or not?
no.
No.
No, it's not.
I mean, I sat here all night waiting to speak about it.
All right, so
Yeah.
I'm unclear why we have two different agendas here.
Yeah. Is it something, Steve, that, well, we had discussed at the last meeting, right? And asked you to come back, so that is correct. We had asked them to come back. So do we want to, dedicate a few minutes for that?
Well, I think that we asked him to come back with information. I mean, the least we can do is allow him to present his information. But again, if we have a public agenda that's different than the
Right.
agenda we have in the packet,
What happens is things that come in late, I put it in the minutes, put in the agenda to be eventually published in the minutes. And then when I put something out there for the residents that come in here, I print out copies for them.
Right.
So the official agenda is what closes at 4 o'clock. This thing was late, and therefore, it's not on the
Official.
agenda. It's up to you if you want to amend it, the agenda.
well, is it on
This is
the,
the problem when things come in late.
right, but is it on the agenda that appears on the website?
Yes.
Okay, then we can't have that, because now folks that come to a meeting are viewing what's on the website, and we can't have two agendas, we have to have one agenda. So the agenda that is available to the public prior to the meeting, I would argue, is the agenda. Because the public is
I'm sorry, let me try that. It's not on the agenda on the website, because I publish it the minute that I print. I publish to the website the minute I print. I only do this when I autofill the agenda to the
Oh, I
minutes, to the
see.
minute track program. What I do is I add it so that, in case you guys want to edit, but sometimes you'll edit and then it's the agenda.
So what's before us is the
So
official.
this is the
Yeah.
official agenda.
That's the official agenda. I only added it to the agenda that's at the desk, at the podium.
Unfortunately,
It's not on.
Mr. Attorney, you got to weigh in on this one. We can't have one agenda,
Whoa.
we can't have one agenda at the dais in the back for the public and one agenda here.
Mr. Attorney's the one that gave it to me last.
Right, but
Yeah,
As a-
no,
as
the
a-
only reason why, again, there was, back and forth with there was a discussion at the last meeting where the board had asked him to report back to the board, and it wasn't on the agenda, and I didn't see any documentation, so I just put it on, I suggested it be added on the agenda.
Right, but,
to-
okay,
for
so,
discussion. It's not
As a-
on for action right now, it's just on for a discussion.
okay, is it on?
What's that?
Is it on the agenda?
If it's on an agenda that I.
The agenda. So the answer is no.
That was placed on the podium.
All right, I mean,
So you guys decide.
at the end of the day, we want to make sure that if folks are coming in and picking up an agenda at the rear of the room, and there's an item on the agenda, that it is on the agenda. We can't have two different agendas, there's got to be one agenda, that's it.
But then I also asked that things make the agenda on time.
Okay, then don't put it on,
9 years I've been getting late things.
true.
It's getting out of hand.
Don't put it on, so put it on the dais, and then we have to make a motion to put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
But right now, unfortunately, in my opinion, we are publishing a document that's available to the public that has it on it.
Well, it wasn't published, it was just printed.
Okay. And, the easy fix in the
Between
future.
Publishing and printing. I printed it out on that podium.
I hear what you're
didn't
saying.
have to-
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I hear it.
Okay, understood?
Trying to make a point, you're making a point, I get it. But we gotta have one. So anyway, I will move, hopefully I have a second on this, to allow the supervisor of buildings and grounds 3 minutes to present his findings.
Second. Let's
Okay.
go, Steve.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays, abstentions? No, the motion passed.
As agreed at the last meeting, I submitted the specifications to the state for a state bid. The original date of issue was delayed by the manufacturer. The 2023 pricing is actually going to come out on the 27th, 3 days from now. The bid will then start to be active at that point. The closing date on it is November 3rd. Your next business meeting is November 14th. And again, I fear between the 3rd and the 14th, the allotment of trucks available will be sold out. And, I'd like to ask that the board give me a cap, a spending cap, if we can move forward with this, so I can grab one if it is available at
We
the
actually
time.
meet the 5th.
We're going to have a workshop on the 5th, which,
Qualifies as a meeting.
right, we can act on it if you get numbers that look good and it's a feasible thing, we can act on it then. But I trust you, but I would hesitate writing a blank check at a board meeting tonight to buy something that we don't have the specifications in front of us. If you can.
Well, I thought I had sent you the specifications on the vehicle as well. And then again, it's identical to the one that we purchased a year ago. It's a F-350 pickup with a snowplow on it. That's it. And that's what we use to work with.
Where should it land price-wise?
The MSRP is right around 52. Traditionally, they've discounted that by close to 20%, but we didn't see that in the last quote that we got.
Right.
So I'm hesitant to estimate where it's going to come in. I would imagine it'd be less than the 52, but, I put an additional 5 on there for the snowplow. It would not exceed that because, that's the pricing that I went off the website with.
What's the window again?
November 3rd is the end, is when the bids are done.
And then how much time do we have to act?
Well, until the trucks are sold out.
All right.
Which the dealer told me with the smaller size pickup truck was 4 days.
All right, so what I would say, and this is just my position, is, report back to us via email of what is in that window, and then be prepared to bring your information on November 5th. And then we can act if we're in a position to act. Right?
I'm willing to do that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
Let's do
pleading
that.
my case here for.
I hear what you're saying, and I understand your frustration. I'm dealing with this at work too.
Yeah.
And it's a moving target at all times, but I have seen some of these manufacturers tack on a 5% additional charge above MSRP based on the availability of these
In
things.
fleet sales?
Not in fleet sales,
Yeah,
but-
I've heard that in retail.
Right, in
yes.
retail. But I
Which
don't-
is why the number of vehicles available to fleet are at a minimum, because
Right.
they're making their money
So,
on retail.
at this point, it wouldn't surprise me if we started seeing that on fleet sales too. So if you could just provide that information to us, and if we're in a position to act.
So if they did that, then I would drop my.
Yeah, I know,
price.
but there's things happening right now that we've never seen before.
Right, exactly.
Everybody
And
good
that's
with
the
that?
only, that's the only reason I'm trying to work here,
I hear you. I hear you.
because of the situation, and it's not gonna get better.
I
know that.
understand, which is unfortunate. Are you guys good with that?
Yes.
Fine.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you. So, motion for executive session.
I'll move we go into
Jim,
executive session.
Why don't you frame it as to the topic?
For, to discuss.
Appointments,
Potential
there's
appointments
vice
of a
counsel.
person.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you.